go with it. Very interesting subject, blockchain. Something's been really close to our hearts for what, years and years. Today we'll talk a little bit about it. My first tryst with blockchain per se happened in 2016-17 in the United States when I was working on a project by Walmart, one of the pioneers in this space of using and implementing blockchain, especially in the supply chain. And that was really good. That sets it, yes, that, then working with Maersk after that, really cool. I'll start with this same question. When I started with this, why I said in 2017, I see 5 years down the line, I come here in India, we're doing a lot of work in India as well, and I see the supply chain sector not really picking up as far as blockchain is concerned. So I'm going to start not by being critical, but by asking why. Well, I have my reasons, but I'd love to hear the panel speak about it. So let's start with the first question. Deepak, my first question to you would be, we all know that supply chain is one of the earliest adopters of blockchain, earliest, but why do we see that in India, we still haven't really gone to that level where the rest of the world is moving? I don't see the lack of talent or lack of vision out here, but I see something else. What do you think these could be? And I'm going to ask all of us the same question to start off with.
The adoption issue is not just supply chain, it is across all domains in this country. Basically, there are government as well as the private industries which has this issue of adoption with blockchain. Basically, it's a overwhelming technology where people take a lot of time to understand. It is not very fast, where you can just build, operate, and transfer within 6 months. A learning curve is typically 9 to 12 months. First of all, organizations need to understand that the cost is also very high. If you cannot do it individually, the best way for supply chain domain segment is to do collaboration and be a consortium partner. And getting stakeholders agreeing to adopt blockchain itself a bigger task. Once you get into the stakeholders, getting them approval and agreeing to every stage of the POC on moving to production itself is another challenge. So there was a report from Settlement, who is one of the blockchain as a service provider platform. They say to build a POC, it takes 9 to 12 months. From POC to production, only 14% conversion happens. So that answers the question that people are not still ready for adopting blockchain. If you have to start blockchain, you need to start now because the technology is a fantastic technology. I was just in the speaker's launch. People said, we have today lost human trust. We need to depend on IT. The only technology which is solving this problem today is blockchain. And it is giving you provenance, it is giving you traceability, it is giving you the location, the owner, the creator, as well as it is one of the best technologies for security where it is not easily hackable. And it is also solving your problems in terms of transaction, which we had initially some of the issues with the earlier blockchains, which is there. And today blockchain has evolved and it is evolving faster than ever. If you do not start today, your learning curve is going to increase by 1 to 2 months. So you need to understand that cycle and you need to have patience for 18 months for you to see the results. If you want to adopt faster, use blockchain as a service platform, because then you will be able to do your POCs faster and you go to move into production. See, we always compare the Western world and we always become followers than leaders. If you want to become leader, when there is a technology at hand, when there is enough talent, when there is enough thought leadership which is already present, why don't you take the next step? So that's always been my question. And do not compare or do not have any thoughts or comparison with the currency world. Blockchain and currencies are two different things. Whenever the FTXs kind of things happen, we always step back. Blockchain is here to stay and you just need to adopt. There is no other way for you to adopt. And it gives you entire traceability, especially for a domain like supply chain, where today traceability and trust is one of the key factors. And that is the technology which is helping you to become a leader in the industry. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so you said very correctly, crypto is not blockchain and blockchain is not crypto. I mean, that's the question we keep getting asked. In fact, somebody asked me whether I should buy Bitcoin right now when I was outside as well. So I'm not going to answer that question, guys, right? So anyways, Raghav, I'll ask you this question, picking up from where Deepak left. I think one of the key things which you mentioned was lack of awareness. That I think is very critical. A lot of us still confuse blockchain with the crypto world, but a lot of us have now understood. What do you think?
I'll just add to that one point. The regulatory clarity is one thing which is lacking. See, do not depend on government for everything, because for eating food we don't ask the government, right? So why do you have to depend on government for everything? So there is a technology which you can adopt tomorrow. Please go and adopt and change your business for your own good. Because our prime minister, if you want investment, adopt blockchain. There is no more anything provenance, or nobody's going to come and motivate you beyond the prime minister. So that's my final word.
All right, Raghav, I'll ask you this question, picking up from there. A lot of brands now, a lot of brands are looking at blockchain as, and the supply chain is really moving in that space. A lot of brands internationally and even locally, I've been doing a lot of projects now. What is your take on the brands adopting blockchain, especially for the supply chains?
Sure, I think your statement was really good. First of all, I think there is a counter for awareness. Most of us know about blockchain. So I'll just give a simple analogy. I'll just borrow our discussion off stage. Blockchain is more of a girlfriend, right? So people have girlfriends and they don't know what to do. Either they don't know where to get her to the restaurant or the hotel or theater.
Give the code codes of why don't you?
So coming to the brands, of course, yes. Brands of international brands have started adapting blockchain. If you look at Louis Vuitton, Dior, these people have already started using blockchain to kind of solve a lot of problems in terms of trust, intent, and also to get that ownership, right? I'll just ask simple question to the crowd. How many of you guys have ordered products, non-electronics, which is beyond 2 lakhs online? Anybody? Anybody who had ordered 2 lakhs worth product, not iPhone? iPhone is never it's like electronics. I know everybody started buying iPhone, but I'm saying like jewelries or watches or saris. Have anyone tried buying? Looks like none, right? That is an answer. Because people have lost trust. Like people feel counterfeit might be there. First problem is intent. So that's why I think there's a brilliant case study on Louis Vuitton. Now they have blockchain, which is the microchip enabled in all their products, right from the manufacturer to the retailer to the end consumer, right? So everywhere there is information feed into the system. Now a person can actually go in as deep as possible and understand whether the product is authentic product, where it is made, how it is getting manufactured, when was the last node created. And the beauty of these products, luxury products, the number of nodes are very limited, right? Because manufacturer, there's a retailer and there is a consumer. So that's how it is. I think there is a lot of revolution happening there, but for products at the lower scale, like I mentioned, they know what it is.
Yes.
It's fancy, but they don't know what to do with it.
So if you think that once if we implement a blockchain solution here, people will start trusting the third parties from where they purchase,
Right.
and therefore have, as you said, the 2 lakh stuff. First of all, a lot of people need to have the 2 lakh rupees in the pocket first. Students are wondering, where the hell am I going to get 2 lakhs right now?
Right.
Bottom line is, you feel that if there is more transparency,
Right.
where you can trace, and there's more trust,
Right.
3 T's or the 3 pillars of blockchain,
Right.
that I think would be critical for mass adoption of the technology.
Right. Right.
Very good. Brands, of course, very clearly. I'll tell you about a brand, which is not even a brand, actually. One of the governments, and I'm not going to name them right now, they have actually used blockchain for tracking counterfeit whiskey. Right? Just like you said, for Louis Vuitton, let's become desi. Let's come right home. They're actually tracking and tracing because a lot of counterfeit whiskey comes in and a lot of excise duty does not go to the government. And of course, it can also be harmful for everybody. But that's a lot of things here. And that is a couple of brands, not naming them, We're not supposed to name whiskey brands here, right? All right.
Right.
Anyway, great. I'll go to the next question with Ravi. Ravi,
Yes,
you've been in a space which is very close to my heart. That's agriculture. We're doing a lot of work in fact, I'm doing some work with the ministry also with using blockchain for intervention for agriculture. Now, agriculture also has had mass adoption, has a potential of having mass adoption with the blockchain. What is your experience? Because you have worked in this space, and I'd love to hear your views, and you can share your views with everybody because it's going to be there everywhere. I know at least half a dozen governments working on that, but I'd like your experience on that. I've worked with the Haryana government, by the way, so I'd love to hear your views on the rest.
Great, Mr. Kapoor. It's always wonderful to listen to you. Now, as far as agriculture is concerned, we introduced blockchain in an industry which is not ready to adopt technology itself, come aside blockchain. And when we went to the farming community, most of them had lost the trust in the entire supply chain. I'll give you the use cases. I'll not go by the mere analogies. So I'll just give you the use cases, how it actually used to happen in Himachal. It was almost 10 years back. I was placed there as a banker. And most of the farmers, even 10 years back, when they used to sell their apples in the local mandis, they are still into arbitration with the court to get back the money from the mandis. There's no transparency in the system that whom they are selling, at what price they are selling, and whether the proceeds will come in time or not. So this is a big lacuna which is being faced by most of the smallholder farmers across the country, not only in one particular state. So when we introduced blockchains over there, the first resistance that came over there was, why should we have been cheated by so many people over a period of time, why should we even give you the details of our Aadhaar card, PAN card, for doing our KYCs, for tagging our land so that we can monitor the traceability of the crop? Why should we give you? There was no trust within them. But when we gave them the hash solution, wherein the identity was completely in a cryptographic format, it was not displayed to any of the parties, third parties, they got some level of confidence. The second level of a confidence was gained when there was complete trust in the system, when we could sell their crops to the right consumer who were willing to pay them better if the quality, if the residual part into the crop is low, the consumer class gets a formative assertion that what I'm eating is pure, the quality has been maintained, what date it has been plucked from the market, from the farm, and when I'm eating it in my plate. So this much of a trust is gained by the consumers who are willing to pay them more. So there was an incremental delta of more than 20%. And that too, the payment were realized because there was a smart contract introduced into the system with the farmers along with the buyers. So all the transactions could be automated in a single tranche, and the payments could be realized by the farmers, and the consumers could get the quality stuff in time. So this are something which has really transformed the behavior of these people. If you talk to most of the farming community, which we have been dealing with, I was not even aware of, they have gone on air and they started appreciating the kind of a work we have done for them. So that's for how blockchain as a technology, by adopting it into a mass level, can really transform the rural economy per se.
Thanks, Ravi. But this is a question I have here. When you talk about doing a lot of work with these farmers, is there any resistance that you get? Is there any pushback? Is there something which they feel, oh, why are we doing this? Is it required? Another headache for us, more technology. We don't have proper internet. We don't have food, water. You're talking about technology. I think that's a question which is always gnawing me. You know,
I think we really need to go to rural areas. We have underestimated Bharat.
Yes.
Bharat has really come up well, and rural economy has transformed itself much more than what we think of. These farming communities have adopted technology, yes, more than what we think of, because they have been a struggler. They have been cheated for years together. Now there's one ray of hope which can transform them, and it's a herd mentality which happens often in a rural segment. If one farmer gets benefited, you don't have to track the second one. the second and the whole herd will come after you. So let's not underestimate the power of our rural economy. It's really going to transform in next 4 to 5 years of a time. You'll see, you will, we developed our entire portfolio over Android so that we can give these farmers, because we expected that no one will have an iPhone with them. But when we went to Kinnaur region, none of the farmers were having an Android phone. They're all having an iPhone. So let's come to a realistic number. When we are talking about the farmers, yes, there are pockets where there is a poverty, but there is no resistance per se if you give the value to them.
Perfect, Ravi. I'll ask Soni now a question. Soni, you've also been doing a lot of work in the track and trace space now. I think there's a blockchain being a completely borderless sort of a technology. That's one of the critical things of its success. Is borderless. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's disintermediated. It's distributed. You also need to have a very strong ecosystem around that. Whatever solutions you're providing, it cannot be in silos. It's got to be a real ecosystem, consortium, partnerships, cooperatives. What is your take on that? And how have you approached it with your product? Because you have a complete solution in the supply chain space, especially in the organic space. Now, what is the sort of initiatives you have taken and what people can think about depending on whichever sector they are in? What are the initiatives you guys are taking? What are the type of partnerships you are stitching? That's critical because blockchain cannot exist in silos. It's got to be collaborative. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. Yours.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks a lot, Mr. Kapoor and Business World for giving us this opportunity. As my colleague, my fellow panelist, Ravi has mentioned, we need to go beyond like one word marketing terms now. We cannot say that this is sustainable, net zero carbon, slave labor free, etc., etc. And we need to produce the proof of the quality and the sustainability claims. And how we are approaching it as, organic world, they are producing top quality products, but they do not get the value. The farmers do not get the value. The exports gets rejected. A lot of problems are happening. So we are introducing traceability in organic ledger. Our motto is traceability, transparency, and trust. So with a simple QR code scan, everybody can check the history, geography, and chemistry and of the product before buying. Coming back to the question, what we have approached, how we have approached is we have created a partnership. We have created partnership with companies who are providing all type of services like satellite image advisory, IoT inputs, etc., etc. Spectroscopy, and how the fruits or the vegetable can be graded. So all the information is encoded with the product, and we can go to the farmer and we can say that, yes, if you implement this holistic solution, your input cost would be reduced by, let's say, 30%, your yield would be increasing by 25%, and your products would be going out in the market with a surety of blockchain and the quality. And it is facing hindrances, yes, but we need some support from the ecosystem, startup ecosystem, in terms of adoption and in terms of support with VCs as well.
So you're actually building a very strong ecosystem around that, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bounce that question to you. We talk about stakeholders. There's lots of stakeholders, especially in the supply chain. When we were working with Walmart, we figured out there were almost 300 interventions. And when we implemented blockchain as a solution today, there are hardly 16 interventions. That's massive saving of manpower, time, resources, money, so on and so forth. So who do you think are the key stakeholders in the entire supply chain? Let's look at from the manufacturing process, for example. What could be, what's your take on the stakeholders?
See, any process of manufacturing or growing, it starts with the manufacturer or the producer. And then some of the things where you're not manufacturing the core components, it goes to the OEMs. And then you have your distributors, then your logistics companies, and then you have your e-commerce platforms which you're using, and then you have the end customers. So these are the couple of key stakeholders in the entire cycle of the supply chain end to end. And then you have the in terms of supply chain, since we are talking about, we have the shipping corporations, the containers, the truck delivery companies. These are all outsourced entities where you need to have a traceability of each of these stakeholders, the role they are playing in the entire manufacturing to reaching the product end product to the client. So if all these stakeholders are brought into as a consortium, as a partner to the ecosystem, where the manufacturer or can become the lead partner in the consortium, the entire product journey from manufacturing to the end customer becomes easy. And it is all what Ravi and Soni all spoke about: traceability, trust, and all those factors which consumers want today is already built in factor. And the payment mechanism, which is one of the concerns for each of the stakeholders, since it is all driven by smart contracts. Smart contracts are not legal contracts. These are contracts which are built using the software codes. And it based on a condition, if this happens, the next step has to happen. If I have delivered the goods and if the customer has paid, immediately everything is ticked and the payment starts ticking to the vendors or suppliers, the distributors. And you build trust because you're having all the players build the trust because you're given a solution which they have been waiting for so long. And I think what Raghav also spoke about luxury items. This talks about sourcing of the material itself when you're building the luxury components. It gives the origination and provenance of where the source is coming. See, today you have counterfeit goods in luxury items, in pharma. So, which is a big concern for all the large companies, because in pharma there's almost a 200 billion counterfeit which happens. And if you cannot trace it, if you cannot control that, then it's a loss for the ecosystem. And that is where in pharma, what happens is, if you have a large distributor or even FMCG, if you have a large distributor, the distributor can change the game for you because he's just holding, because he might be a manufacturer of a generic component, right? And FMCG, he might be selling a toothpaste in his own brand. He can just hold that market for Colgate or Palmolive. So all these things can be traced today for the major stakeholders. And since it is traceability, provenance, and tracking, which is already we've been talking about, I think this blockchain solves every stakeholder's problem.
Does it really does? And you talked about pharma there. I'll pick up one of the things here. Recently, I don't know how many of us know that in China, because they were not using the blockchain that time, they were actually supplying talcum powder for baby feed. Lots of babies died in China recently. Of course, China is a closed economy behind an iron curtain, so to speak. We don't hear much of it, but that brings us to a very strong question. And I'll put that to you, Raghav. Given that tragedies like this could happen, and you think blockchain can actually prevent or at least reduce such problems or such incidents?
I think definitely before getting into China, I think there was a recent incident that happened in Gambia. I think 21 poor children have died. I think that's what accounted, but I'm not sure how much have unaccounted. So blockchain can actually solve all these problems. So while it might be really fancy to hear all those things, the real subject is it can give one of the major problems of pharma is, I think, like your fellow panelists have been the counterfeit. It's more than efficacy, right? Efficacy of the product. The efficacy of the product is kind of something, the composition, whatever it is mentioned, has to be maintained at certain temperature. For example, if you take insulin that you buy, if you happen to buy insulin in your chemist stores, most of the chemist stores would actually have it in a refrigerator, right? But you're not sure how did this product land in a refrigerator, right? It has come through a cold chain, or it has come through a normal, TVS 50, or whatever it is. So in terms of pharma, it's not only the manufacturer responsibility, of course, it's a manufacturer responsibility as well, but the responsibility lies at the different nodes, right? From the person who is taking at the first mile, it's going to be a truck. to the last mile, who's going to be a last two-wheeler. Everybody has to be trained properly. Else, it's forget about luxury items. It's a lifeline product, right?
Yes, it's completely. Right. We've got a less time, so we just got a lot. I want to ask these couple of questions that are running in my mind. Cost saving. Everybody likes cost saving. Everybody talks about cost saving. Can implementation of a proper blockchain solution reduce costs for manufacturers, for logistics, warehouses, shipping, all the stakeholders, all the guys, which even Deepak speaking about? Can it actually do that? And of course, for the farmers as well, because everybody's looking at either increasing their income or reducing the costs. Top line, bottom line. What's your take?
So there are two things in which most of actually, I'll talk about the agri value chain in particular. So if you find the agri value chain, there are two incidental costs which increases the overall cost of the product in the supply chain. One is the last mile deliveries. Either it is procurement side, wherein you have the micro level transporters engaged into the processes, or into the last mile delivery of the consumer segment. One. So both of them are not integrated into the system, wherein the entire supply chain could be done in an integrated fashion. So there is a cost incidence into it. The second is the quality of in particular, if you're talking of a fruits as a segment, there is a lot of a decay, a lot of wastage which happens across the segment while the goods are being transferred. So overall, approximately 30% incidental cost is in excess against what a technology like blockchain would bring down the cost as a structure. So you have an integrated supply chain which can be built upon, and you can track the quality of the crop in transit also by using certain IoTs in the process. And then you can deliver these goods to the last mile, either in the procurement side or in the supply side, both of the sides integrated into a one chain, which would reduce the cost by more than 30% as on today.
Perfect. That's in bottom line, there is a bottom line impact. Yeah. All right. Since you're running out of time, I'm going to ask the last question for now, Soni. Do you think, I'll ask that to you, and then we'll ask everybody that I want a one-line answer from the rest of them. From you, I want a little more detailed answer. Do you think bringing about awareness or integrating this into our education system, the knowledge of blockchain in various sectors like supply chain, logistics, shipping, if we bring it into the education system, do you think that'll have an impact going forward in terms of adoption, mass adoption?
Yes, this is actually happening at the moment. What we need to understand here is blockchain is a backend technology where we move from paper paper way of doing business as of now to a paperless business. Everything is written in code, and the processes of business, for example, transfer of money from one entity to another entity, agri lending, insurance, warranties, everything can be written in the smart contract. And some of the blockchain companies are getting associated with premier institutes of India. They are sponsoring some certain courses, giving out rewards for building of projects, so that the fresh generation are aware of the benefits and how we can transform our current way of doing business to a completely smart contract way of doing business, and reduce the cost and increase efficiency by using the blockchain tech. And as everybody is saying, we are still in the early stages of blockchain adoption. We need to make sure that we lobby behind it, and we make people aware that how this disruptive technology is going to change the way in this decade. And
so I think education plays a very critical role in all this. So I don't know how many of us are aware here. I'm going to conclude now and ask questions. The government of India has more than 90 projects on the blockchain. A lot of them are in agriculture, e-governance, supply chain. I don't know how many of us know that. That's the government has got. In the private sector, hundreds and thousands of them coming up now. We've seen that in the last 2 years. Personally, I was working on 12 use cases 2 years back. Today, I'm working on 57 use cases. That's some form of transformation. So I see the transformation, and I see that supply chain is going to be a major adopter in the near future. Do you guys agree with me on that? A yes or no is fine.
Yeah, completely.
are doing it ourselves. So yeah.
Right. So I'm going to stop yapping now. I'm going to let you guys ask any questions, especially students out there. You guys are going to create solutions in this space, and people who are from the industry, your suggestions, your challenges, any questions, please. I like your long hair. You can ask the question first. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. Very quick question to any of the panelists who would want to answer this. So it's relatively nascent,
Yeah.
blockchain from an Indian parlance. So do you see cost of implementation being an entry barrier so far? When you look at, because obviously logistics cost itself, they say that anything which is beyond any product which is, taking 300 rupees or any product which costs 300 rupees for delivery to the last mile is basically not viable to the end consumer. Does this add to that entry barrier, or does the cost become an entry barrier? Wherein companies, because counterfeit may not be a very, very compelling case for a lot of organizations. That is one pressing case that you talked about. But is it actually an entry barrier, the cost of implementation?
Love to answer now. The answer is a very resounding yes. It actually reduces cost hell of a lot. Again, one of the panelists, that is what Deepak said, we need to have a platform which is uniform. In fact, one of the things I'm doing for the media sector is creating a media blockchain so that all of them don't have to create their own blockchains. The sector must come together, make a supply chain proper blockchain. We can do that. There are also existing availables. Existing technologies can be all put together, bringing down the cost drastically for adoption. That's.
I would like to add to that. Yes, the initial cost is a bit high, but as we move to economies of scale, the benefits would outweigh the cost by miles. So yes, initially, yes, there is a hindrance, there is an entry barrier, but going ahead, we expect it to, give more benefits than it cost us now.
I will.
Yeah. Take it offline. Yes, of course, sir. There is a yin and yang. The negative is, yes. Yes, I'll give you the negatives. I'll give you 3 points. There are maybe many more also. There's always a negative and a positive. There's the yin and yang. One of them is challenges of legacy technology, working with blockchain at times. That is one. The second is the lack of wanting to change a system, which is running fairly well in their own ways. So the lack of awareness comes there. And the third is not so many use cases right now, which we can talk about. But that's all going to change in the next 3 to 6 months. We'll find lots more use cases. See, everything has nascent technology. It's got a lot of downsides, but it's got more upsides in the long run. When you look at the pros and cons, the pros will far outweigh the cons. Of course, I can give you a detailed answer offline, that's for sure. But that's it for now. We have run out of time, basically. Don't want to infringe on anybody else's time, guys. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us all here.